If there is one man who has shown the capacity to patronize all, including where he did not win election, it is President Muhammadu Buhari.
Nigerians are short of value addition to governance in the country as President Buhari holds talks with APC Chairman Adams Oshomole.
Islamic State of West Africa province suffers 10 casualties in Baga, Borno State.
Federal government launches structured mandatory assessment training program, Smart P for workers.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on abandoned projects and the cost to the nation.
The euphoria that greets the award and commencement of a project in Nigeria is often short-lived for the people when along the way setbacks are recorded for whatever reasons being adduced. No one sector is spared, and this has been the situation over the years. Kinsley.
That's right, Jumai. Now, just yesterday, that's Monday, at the screening of ministerial nominees, a former minister revealed that projects numbering some 116 in the water sector alone were abandoned all over the country, with 37 of those projects being for dams.
And those projects, Kinsley, are just from one sector. Some facts from a survey conducted in January 2019 by a certain civil society group say in over 15 states of the Federation, there are over 12 abandoned health projects, which is scary, actually.
Absolutely. And then just last week also, the House of Representatives heard that over 20,000 projects worth billions of naira stand abandoned across the country, and therefore resolved the need to audit all such projects from 1999 to date. And indeed, last year also, there was an alarming figure that was released concerning some 56,000 projects worth 12 trillion naira, and that revelation came from the Chartered Institute of Project Management.
And so it is a litany of complaints for abandoned projects from the critical sectors to others not visibly evident to hold to account by the people. The spectre from health, housing and transportation certainly is stifling the needed development, and these failures telling on the cost of the nation.
No doubt about that. Now, the concern this has raised has been, for one, that the present administration has taken the steps of picking out several of such abandoned projects. And therefore, we are witnessing several network of roads which have either been rehabilitated or otherwise been reconstructed. The rail sector is also being affected. Indeed, some 12 projects, as it were given speedy priority and completion in the water sector, according to the former minister who was in charge of that portfolio.
Good most, I might say, Kinsley, as government should be seen as continuous process. We need more interventions in other critical sectors to reduce the rate at which projects are abandoned at the different tiers of government. How can we ensure other projects receive further attention for their completion?
Well, abandoned, poorly executed or outright failed capital projects are the bane of the nation's development. One question to ask, therefore, is how can this be checkmated in order to reduce the high cost to the country? What measures in particular are there with regards to monitoring? If there are parameters that have been set up to say that, look, step by step, you can track a project, and if there is the risk of abandonment at any point, there's an early warning sign. Those, of course, will be some of the talking points on our conversation segment this morning, and it's on that note we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jummai Yusuf. It's always good to have you join us on the program on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. We are broadcasting live from Abuja. As always, we will bring to you the complimentary parts of the program: newspaper reviews, business, sports, foreign and entertainment news. In the meantime, here's the news highlights with Usman Aliu. Good morning, Usman.
Good morning, Jummai and Kingsley. Here is the morning news. The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Adams Oshomole, has expressed absolute confidence in the ability of the ministerial nominees now being screened by the National Assembly to successfully drive the next level agenda for a greater Nigeria. Speaking to State House correspondents after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari, Oshomole assured Nigerians of value addition to governance in the country.
If there is one man who has shown the capacity to patronize all, including where he did not win election, it is President Muhammadu Buhari. Otherwise, where we get less than 5%, I saw 2 ministers coming from that state, in spite of the fact that he got less than 5% there. That speaks volumes about a large heart, the heart to accommodate, to appreciate, and to have an all-inclusive government. I'm very optimistic that these ministers coming, all of us working together, the party, the executive, which the ministers belong, and the National Assembly, in which we have overwhelming majority, we have what it takes to take Nigeria to the next level. And the next level, we are going there.
The APC national chairman also appreciates President Buhari for continuously providing leadership in galvanizing action for national development, as demonstrated during the last presidential policy retreat to chart a course for the country.
For the first time, we have a president who sat for 10 hours each day, listening to presentation, listening to debate, and even himself contributing. That, for me, was something I was very happy about. That our party has moved from being a rally where people just do election and go home, to one that after doing election, and we have been sworn in, the Senate has been inaugurated, Rep inaugurated, we now sit down, the party, the executive, the legislature, to say, going to the next level, what are the policy issues? How do we deliver to Nigeria people? That is what those 2 days was about. And for me, I came to thank him for providing leadership for that exercise.
The Nigerian Institute of Space Engineers has urged the federal government to provide more Earth observation satellites to aid national security and socio-economic development. National Chairman of Institute, Sadiq Umar, made the appeal at its 3rd annual lecture held in honor of Brigadier General Michael Agu, the pioneer chairman with focus on remote sensing technology and national security.
Where we want to be is for us to have more satellites. If you remember, Nigeria Sat-2 and Sat-X, designed, built, in Sore, was launched in 2011. The lifespan of a satellite may be 10 years maximum. You should be thinking of having replacement.
In the meantime, 10 terrorists, including 4 suicide bombers, were reported dead following an attack by Islamic State of West Africa province terrorists on multinational joint task force and national troops on Monday in Bagakuka local government area of Borno State. A statement from the Chief Military Information Colonel Timothy Antiga, multinational joint task force in Jamena Chad, says ISWAP terrorists numbering about 30 infested troops defensive locality but were sighted by vigilant troops. However, the statement added that a soldier lost his life in the fight while 5 others sustained injury and are now receiving medical attention. Assorted arms and ammunition, according to the statement, were recovered from the terrorists. Nigeria and Ghana Navy are working towards strengthening a relationship in tackling security challenges along the maritime borders. This was made known at the inaugural International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference in Accra, Ghana.
Zone A, which consists of Nigeria, Togo, and Benin, the MOU is already subsisting. And so for the Zone F, which is not yet operationalized, that consists of Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and then Liberia. So that's what is to the MOU that is to be signed.
Intercommunal clash and lack of funds have been identified as some of the major challenges to infrastructural development in Nigeria, especially road construction. These were part of submissions by immediate past Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, during the ministerial screening at the Senate.
We focus essentially on completing what we inherited, and this led us, for example, to recovering 720 containers belonging to the Federal Republic of Nigeria containing transmission equipment that had been left at the Nigerian port for almost a decade.
Have more products locally. It will not be attractive to go and import any longer. You will see at that point, subsidy will disappear gradually by itself without government pronouncing it.
And now, 1,500 civil servants are to benefit from the pilot phase of the Structured Mandatory Assessment-Based Training Program, SMART-P, aimed at equipping them with official communication, security management, and public finance management, among others, was at the launch of the program in Abuja.
The assessment just does not end here. When a participant goes back to work, he or she is meant to apply what he has learned to his schedule of duties. We will definitely have to involve a feedback mechanism.
The National Youth Service Corps has described as fake a trending article on the social media alleging the torture of Corps member serving in Kauranamode, Zamfara State. A statement by the NYSC management urges members of the public to ignore the misleading video, which it says was manufactured by mischief makers. The NYSC restates that the welfare of Corps members is paramount to its scheme. It monitors their activities and encourages them to cultivate good relationship with host communities. And that's the news highlight. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jume. That will be after this break.
Television College Jos announces admissions into 2-year diploma programs in film and television production, television engineering, and broadcast journalism. The sale of forms will commence on the 13th of May and run through 30th July 2019. Admission forms can be obtained from all marketing offices, NTA state capital stations, zonal centers, or at the office of the academic secretary, NTA Television College, Rayfield, Jos.
On payment of a non-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA TV College. Applicants can also obtain the forms through the NTA TV College portal at www.ntatvc.edu.nj.
Applicants are required to possess 5 credits in GCE or SSCE in relevant areas of study in not more than 2 sittings, including English and mathematics. All properly completed forms attached with photocopies of credentials must be submitted on or before 30th July 2019. For further inquiries, please visit our website at ntatvc.com or call 0803 3144 383.
NTA TV College, training you to be the best you want to be.
Registrar Announcer.
We want to buy Indomie noodles. 4 packs, please.
Yo.
This is not my Indomie. Please, sir, if it's not Indomie, don't call it Indomie.
Sir, the taste is the difference. The difference is in the taste. That's why my brothers, my mommy, my daddy, and I all enjoy a delicious, so very delicious Indomie noodles. The difference is the taste.
Taste is the difference.
Yes, difference is in the taste. Nothing tastes like my Indomie.
Indomie Super Pack, now available at 85 naira. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
Dear Mom, you are extraordinary. You always go the extra mile to make sure my breakfast is made with extra nutritious Milo. I want to say a big thank you. You are extra precious and extra super.
Milo is thanking moms for being extraordinary by giving the family an extra 50 grams of delicious Milo for every 500-gram pouch bought. Don't miss out. Offer valid while stocks last. Milo!
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. I'm reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, time for us to take our business package, and here is our correspondent, Kolo Mohammed.
Good morning. Good to have you join us on Business News. Countries of the world finance their projects using tax revenues or through loans. Nigeria is looking at sufficient tax revenue for financing especially capital-intensive projects for the good of citizens. To this end, the Tax Appeal Tribunal is working to ensure correct assessments are handed firms and businesses to ensure prompt payment of taxes.
strengthening the tax system, enhancing the processes and operation of the system, and also it will facilitate the process of tax collection in the sense that issues that have been resolved and agreed by parties will quickly go through settlement and recovery of such debt. Indirectly, it's going to add to the collection that have come through the normal process by the tax authority.
The African Continental Free Trade Area is coming, and resident micro, small, and medium enterprises must brace up in order that goods coming in from the regional free trade area do not put them to a recess. From a recent data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, there are about 41 million micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria. Now, imagine the revenue that will accrue the government if 41 million micro, small, and medium enterprises pay taxes correctly. Time now to let us see where activities on the floor of the Nigerian stock market on the first day of trading this week placed market indices. That's business news at this time. See you again soon.
Thanks so much, Kolo Mohammed. The newspaper review segment is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Toebe, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Bayo. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, Jumai, let's begin with you.
Yes, we'll begin with the Nigerian pilot. Just below the masthead, don't assign Labour Ministry to Ngige, NLC tells Buhari. That was on page 8. Alleged 2 billion scam, EFCC quizzes Director, 6 microfinance bank MDs. You find that on page 6. And the bold headlines, multinational joint task force kills 10 ISWAP terrorists, lose 1 soldier. With a rider as troops snap 16 bandits, medical aid, 5 soldiers injured. That's on page 8. And the picture message there, Speaker, House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, with members of National Association of Resident Doctors and officials of Federal Ministry of Finance, Health and DG Budget Office at the National Assembly yesterday. We have no witness against Atiku. That's coming from the Independent National Electoral Commission. You find that story on page 5. And at the bottom plate of the Nigerian pilot, Complaints Commission orders custom to return 300 bags of rice to widows. That's you find on page 7. PDP to Senate, submit ministerial list to EFCC. You find that on page 8. Unpaid salary, let's meet in court. Yahaya Bello tells deputy. That story is on page 9. El Zazaki's worsening health, absence forced court to adjourn. You find that on page 6. Fashola proposes 10 trillion infrastructure bond to aid development. That is on page 9. And at the very, very bottom of the Nigerian pilot, Bayelsa, Kogi Gova, INEC fixes August 30th to close application. You find that on page 10.
All right. Let's also take a look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune, the lead story, it's similar, by the way, to that of the leadership newspaper. So, Nigerian Tribune lead story says, Nigeria in moment of trial, Abdul Salami says. Abdul Salami is former military head of state. Miyetti Allah to begin nationwide reconciliation tour. That's the rider to that headline. Details of the story can be found on page 2. And as I said, for Leadership newspaper, that's virtually the same thing. It says, dialogue, only solution to Nigeria's security challenges, according to Abu Salami, with two riders, says there is anger in the land. Northern and southern leaders brainstorm on way forward. Details can be found on page 4. And other headlines from the Nigerian Tribune above the nameplate of the paper, Olubadan and Ibadan Obas reconcile. Details of that story on the front page with a continuation on page 8. Now, below the nameplate, Judiciary should appoint INEC boss. That's according to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. That's page 9. 819 million naira debt. Go to court. Kogi government dares deputy governor. Page 8 as well. And of course, the African Continental Free Trade Area, Rwanda and IMF chief urge federal government to unify exchange rates. And the CBN, of course, also replies to that, saying unified exchange rate may trigger inflation. That story is below the nameplate of the Leadership newspaper. Quickly, two other headlines from the Tribune. Lagos-Ibadan Highway, that's the kicker. Police rescued 7 kidnapped victims, arrest 41, and woman abducted while jogging in Lagos. That took place somewhere around Abuja, Lagos. Details on pages 30 and 31. Ondo Assembly snake saga. We won't approve 30 billion naira loan request. Lawmakers threaten. That's page 12.
And let's quickly go to the Punch.
Bio can come
okay, Bio.
Let's start with what happened at Mina yesterday. The Abdulsalami Abubakar Institute for Peace and Sustainable Development has called for dialogue as a solution to the security challenges the nation is facing. Instead of overheating the polity, leaders in the nation are called upon for urgent attention for the purposes of dialogue and peaceful coexistence. The former head of state and chairman said Nigeria is going through a period of trial amidst growing tension and resentment. There is anger in the land, and the voices of reason are drowning rapidly. The former head of state added, the situation required that leaders to live up to the expectation of the people. They kicked against those beating the drums of war and pushing for the nation's disintegration. General Abdulsalami Abubakar clarified that the roundtable was not a mini-national conference, nor a forum to review the constitution. The chairman of the roundtable, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, said, the problems we face as a nation can only be resolved through dialogue. And he added, even wars end always with dialogue, adding that disintegration would not solve Nigeria's problem. Governor Bello, who was host, the Niger State governor, says, Nigeria's challenges are surmountable. All they require is sincerity of all stakeholders. Meanwhile, at the Presidential Election Tribunal, the Independent National Electoral Commission, which had 6 days to open its defense, indicated that it will not call any witnesses. Counsel to INEC Yunus Usman said that it will not be necessary on the grounds that the evidence extracted from the 62 witnesses of the petitioners were in support of the Commission's case and in its denial in consonance with INEC's pleading. Counsel to the petitioner thanked the INEC for not calling any witnesses. However, the counsel to the All Progressive Congress says that the decision whether or not to call a witness will depend on the case to be presented by President Muhammadu Buhari. The President Muhammadu Buhari opens the case at the tribunal today.
What's happening across the country? Now let's go to the Punch newspaper. Above the masthead, we have Lagos-Ibadan Road, burger to relax closure for Salah. RCCG convention, you find that on page 26. INEC fails to call witnesses. Buhari begins defense. That's on page 18. Zamfara to employ ex-bandits to combat killings and kidnappings. You find that on page 9. Ezdazaki absent. Court rules on bail August 5th. You find that on page 13. And just below, beside the Punch headline, nameplate, 11 die in Nasarawa Jigawa auto crash. That's on page 14. Delay, Ekiti, Ondo, other pilgrims shot Ilorin Airport. That's on page 14. And below the masthead, ministerial screening, Senate OK's nominees today. PDP demands EFCC probe. That's on page 2. With riders, lawmakers take voice votes as lie 2 orders appear. Ministers designate must be subjected to graft probe. You find that all on page 2. And the picture story, Ahmadu Bello in Kaduna during the trial of the Shiites leader Ibrahim Zazaki on Monday. Hajj Commission offers UTME top scorers free pilgrimage. That's on page 12. NNPC refineries post losses in 13 months. You'll find that on page 29. Oshomole, Obasaki's reconciliation going on. APC chair, ex-AGF, you find that on page 18. At the bottom plate of the Punch newspaper, Nasarawa governor inaugurates economic panel. You find that on page 12. Gunmen kill 3 as Benue journalist escaped deaths. That's on page 4. And security crisis worries Abdusalam. Gambari warns against breakup. That's on page 15.
All right, very quickly now, back to the leadership newspaper. Leadership newspaper immediately below the nameplate. Let's meet in court. Kogi governor tells deputy. That's page 2. And then Senate confirms ministerial nominees today. There are only 3 of them left for screening. And also below the photograph there on the front page, African Free Continental Trade Area Agreement, Nigeria not operating protectionist economy. That's according to Vice President Oshibajo. And court rules on ex-Zaki's bail application August 5. And 50 properties marked for demolition in Abuja. That's from the leadership newspaper. Bayo, you recall yesterday we raised this issue in our newspaper review session. That's to say the Ondo Assembly bogus snake saga. Now, this headline here on the front page of the Tribune, I read it earlier. I just want to go over it again. We won't approve 30 billion naira loan request, lawmakers threaten. That's a threat of blackmail, page 12. But in terms of the details of the snake, or whether there was snake or no snake, let me just take this. The story is in greater detail on page 12. That's to say now, the House Committee Chairman on Information, Benga Omole, says that the truth of the matter is that the place needs attention. The way they merged the issue of snake with the collapsed part of the building is the issue. Termites have eaten the roof of the building. There was a snake invasion on Wednesday, but on Thursday, when we were about to sit, we discovered that termites had eaten the roof. The issue is that termites did not start eating the place in the last 2 years. It was the failure of the leadership of the House in the past assembly. To set the record straight, we never sat on Wednesday and Thursday. Actually, we wanted to sit on Thursday, but when we came in, some part of the roof had caved in. I granted the interview on Wednesday. There was a snake and we could not sit. It is not that the snake chased us out of the chamber. That was what everybody wrote. Newsmen have the liberty to write what they want to write.
Well, they've said their own side. Yes. The newsmen have said their side. We leave like we do in journalism, you leave the audience to judge. But right. The fact of the matter is that if a premises has been eaten by a termite, anything can happen anytime. The ceiling can drop anytime. In fact, if any wood there on the structure can collapse anytime. And so all it is saying is that that place is depreciated and it needs attention. Meanwhile, the other stories that were read, Kaduna State High Court has fixed August 5th for the ruling in the 2 cases, one of bail and also application for treatment abroad. The application indicated that if granted, he and his wife, Zaki and his wife Zinat, will return to Nigeria as soon as they are discharged from hospital. The prosecution opposed the application, saying that the Sheikh and his wife could be treated locally in Nigeria. Justice Dahirus Hobo is to give ruling on Monday, 5th of August. There's also the former Senate President, Ayim Pius Ayim, says contrived impeachment of any elected officer, whether on any arm of government, whether executive or judiciary, is unhealthy for democracy. He revealed that the arbitrary change of the presiding officers of the Fourth Senate was what led to the lawmakers to move to threaten to impeach former President Olusegun Obasanjo during his tenure. It may be recalled that General Gowon revealed that the trial of himself, General Abdul Salami, and Chief Ernest Shoneka had prevailed on Speaker Gali Umar Naba and Senate President then Pius asked him not to impeach General Olusegun Obasanjo then. The former Senate President, also former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, said that there is an error that when the leadership of the legislature is impeached, it is in order. But when the executive is threatened with impeachment, it is a threat to democracy. He said, any contrived impeachment, whether for the either arm of government, is unhealthy for democratic development. Meanwhile, there is positive news from railway. The Ibadan-Lagos Railway is ready. And according to the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Transport, says that the October deadline that has been indicated is very much online. And in a latest inspection, he said, apart from the 9 stations that are required to be built between Idu and Ibadan, the 2 track for the rail line are ready. It's the standard gauge train line that is meant for shuttle between Lagos and Ibadan. That's indeed good news for the common man, because the train service, and Lagos, it's a good thing because the hold up on Lagos roads is just terrifying. What I found amazing is that the repairs and rebuilding of the Lagos-Ibadan expressway, the highway itself, is spanned over several years. Yes. The railway started how many months ago, and it's already from Lagos to Ibadan. It's been completed. That's what we're talking. I would have thought that it is more strenuous to build rail tracks, dual carriageway, back and forth, than probably a dual carriageway on the ground. Maybe I'm not an engineer, I don't know.
Well, you know, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, it has a number of issues. Part of it, litigation. Okay. Also, the expressway is in use while construction is ongoing. Yes. So you have to shut one of the carriages, one of the carriageways, for you to walk on the other. And of course, if you know the volume of traffic, it's Nigeria's major arterial road. That's Nigeria's actually highway A1, and so it's very busy, very busy in and out of Lagos. So managing traffic while construction is ongoing is a major issue. For the rail construction, well, it's taking quite a while. You can say construction has speeded up. Congratulations, no doubt about that. Congratulations. But they've also had some right-of-way issues. And then they've also met some obstacles in terms of the bridges that they needed to construct or redesign and so on and so forth. But in general, except it's through a very difficult terrain, maybe you have to bore a hole in the mountainside, rail tracks are much easier to construct. Really? Yes, much easier. Well, of course, if there's a difficult terrain, for instance, there's a bridge, you know, the River Kaduna, when they were constructing the Abuja-Kaduna rail system, the River Kaduna took a while, because of the span. Yes, of the span of the same thing. Jeba, River Niger. River Niger. So that takes quite a while, and of course, if you have to avoid, depending on the skill of the engineer and so on and so forth. But there's a story. Well, it's still a developing story. The confusion or conflict between the Kogi governor and his deputy over non-payment of salaries and allowances. Those allowances, of course, will relate to allowances to his aides or the running of his office. It's over 800 million naira. They say, look, let's meet in court. It's not every matter you take to court. Let's face it. Not every matter, every little thing you say, let's go to court, let's go to court. I mean, well, of course, their relationship has broken down virtually irretrievably. Yes. You know, if a marriage hits that, then of course the ground for divorce. The deputy governor came to see President Muhammadu Buhari. The governor, of course, his spokesperson is using a different statement. Can't they find a way of resolving? If the deputy governor had been paid, would he also embark on this campaign, as it were, to the president? Look, I've not been paid, or I've not been paid. It's this kind of blackmail that you find. Usually on the part of the chief executive. If you don't want to impeach him outright, you will say, let's see how you run your office. And at this moment in time, it's a dent on the governor's reputation, actually, because I don't think... Let's now go to the editorial. Say it takes two to tango. Yes, let's go to the editorial, and it's from the Daily Trust newspaper. Strange bridge at Lagos Airport. I'm going to read just a little from
The editorial. A fortnight ago, a horrifying incident at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, caused shock and panic among air travelers in Nigeria. A man prevented a Port Harcourt-bound Asman aircraft from taking off by climbing onto the plane's wing. The pilot of the plane, which was already preparing for takeoff, promptly switched off its engines. And Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria FAN spokesman Harrieta Yakubu later identified the intruder as Usman Adamu from Niger Republic. FAN promptly suspended 4 senior security heads pending the outcome of the investigation. The most interesting part, FAN's managing director, Captain Rabiu Hamisu Yadudu, who spoke at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, Kano, said 5 days before the incident, the same man was apprehended by aviation security men within the airport premises.
Yes, in fact, the questions that the editorial is asking that how did the man in the initial instance get within the premises of the airport? What is the responsibility of the security? And the editorial is emphasizing that the security at the airport is very porous, and lessons have to be learned, not only from that Lagos airport, but for all airports around the country. You will recall that not too long ago, there were reports of even cattle invading airport, to the extent that at Port Harcourt, we had an air crash which was occasioned by cows invading tarmac, and therefore there is need to beef up security. They have commended the managing director of the Federal Airports Authority for accepting responsibility, but they have also challenged him that internally they need to clean up, because if a man had been arrested 5 days earlier, how did the same man get released and then threaten the airport again?
Okay, Baya Toyobe, thank you for being with us today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Okay. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, still on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our conversation.
Protocol and event management are special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College JOS is organizing a special 2-week course on protocol, event management, and public relations to upgrade the capacities of practitioners. The course will equip participants with modern skills, techniques, and international best practices in protocol, event management, and public relations. Also, a special 4-week intensive course on non-linear editing techniques will run concurrently. The course will expose participants to modern techniques and technologies of non-linear editing. Take advantage of this course to hone your professional skills for premium packaging of your programs and reports. The venue for both courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA Television College, near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos, Plateau State. Date 19th to 30th August 2019 for the course on protocol, event management, and public relations. 19th August to 13th September 2019 for basic non-linear editing techniques. Course fee 100,000 naira only per participant. Accommodation inclusive. For more information, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College JOS, training you to be the best you want to be.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above and the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, please support our armed forces.
Our conversation on the subject matter. Let's take this background report by Serafina Oko.
There is no doubt that the level of infrastructure in the country determines the development status of that nation. Nigerian government, both previous and current, harp on provision of infrastructure as a prerequisite for socio-economic development. These infrastructure projects cut across various sectors of the economy, ranging from water, power, iron and steel, road, rail, and technology, among others. Over the years, Nigeria's infrastructural development has come under serious discourse by the citizens in view of the way such projects are abandoned halfway. For instance, according to Chartered Institute of Project Management report released last year, about 56,000 government projects were abandoned in Nigeria, cutting across roads, bridges, hospitals, and dams, among others. The institute said about 12 trillion naira is needed to complete such abandoned projects across the country. However, the current administration made it priority to complete ongoing and abandoned projects before initiating new ones to avoid colossal waste to the nation. Some of the projects being completed by the present administration include Second Niger Bridge, Loko Oweto Bridge, Abuja Lokoja Dual Carriageway, Lagos Ibadan Road, railway projects, among others. Although some of these projects have reached a appreciable stage, others are still waiting for government attention. Worried by the development, the National Assembly deliberated on the matter and called for investigation of abandoned projects to ascertaining the culprits with a view to taking appropriate decisions to stem the trend. Will these targets be achieved, and what more can government do to ensure completion of abandoned and ongoing projects? Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will provide answers shortly.
All right, thank you very much for that background. We have guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as from our Lagos Network Center. First, let's welcome Honorable Francis Udoyok. He is a member of the House of Representatives, and he moved the motion for the audit of abandoned projects beginning from 1999 to date. Honorable Udoyok, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you.
Okay. Also here with us on Good Morning Nigeria today, it's a familiar face, is Engineer Kashim Ali. Kashim Ali, of course, is the former president of COREN, that's the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, and is currently chairman of the FCT Water Board. Engineer Ali, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you very much. Okay, also here with us is the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, Nigerian. Pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
And joining us in the studio this morning is Dr. Chukwuma Kachi, representing current President, past Head of Procurement Department, Nigeria Police, past Head of Housing Department, Nigeria Police, past Vice President, Nigerian Society of Engineers. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. And from our Lagos studio, we have Fedet Ohere, is the Managing Director, Nigeria Railway Corporation. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Thanks a lot for being with us again. Let's begin the conversation first by returning to the House of Reps, where the motion was moved for an audit of abandoned projects over the past 20 years. We are all familiar with the specter of abandoned projects in Nigeria, but how acute is the problem?
Well, the problem is serious. That is why we are motivated to look at the seriousness of the problem by ensuring that we do a proper audit. The drive is that we look at the infrastructural development in Nigeria, where we are, where we ought to be, and where we are going to, and what we need to do to get to that place. So we call it the Nigerian project infrastructurally, and that is the drive, and that is what we intend in the 9th Assembly under the leadership of Speaker Mr. Femi Bajabiamila to achieve.
What is the scope of the intended audit? I mean, because, you know, at all tiers of government, there are all kinds of abandoned projects.
The scope is large. The ad hoc committee set, 6 different ad hoc committees have been set up. One to take care of NDDC projects, one water resources, FEMA, power, works generally, and I think communication. So it's a very big and large scope because we cannot complete it with one committee, one ad hoc committee. So it has to be splitted. Areas that are mentioned presumably are under works. For example, some projects in the universities that have been abandoned. We believe that it will be under the works.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's return to the other guests. First, Engineer Kashim Ali. I mean, as I said, the spectacle is there for all to see. There's virtually no part of the country you visit that you won't find evidence of a project that is begging for completion. Why have we not been able to overcome this challenge?
Well, there are 1,001 reasons why we have not. But can I say something briefly about the intention of the House of Representatives? You know, project evaluation is something technical. You need special skills to do it. And much as the intention is clear and good, it will be good to outsource such a responsibility to people who have the capacity. An ad hoc committee of members of the House of Representatives will certainly not do a thorough job because they are busy doing legislative duties, and beyond that also is that they may not get the skills. You see, for instance, in any place, there's nowhere in the world where they don't have abandoned projects, but the abandoned projects arise as a result of many reasons. For instance, if a project is poorly planned at the beginning, you have a challenge. If you now have even poor design or poor funding, or you just suddenly decide to come in by fiat to make decisions to change the scope, or political factors like what they are doing now. You know, I'm not accusing them in any way. You know, but the trend in Nigeria has been to look at what the previous government has done, and look at it from the negative angle from the beginning. Even the mindset will be a bit negative. So before you make progress, you see court injunction, you see uproar in the media, and the whole thing will be condemned even before it has started. So I think the best thing to do therefore is to assess it. But why are there abandoned projects? Because our nation is evolving. There are too many interests. People who come into office, for instance, see their period in office as temporary, and I'm here today, I may not be there tomorrow. So let me do something for my constituency, whatever that constituency is. You say, okay, let me do a road project in my area. Let me do water project. So by the time you now rush and have many things all on the same table, you are not able to focus on any and achieve. So we have all those situations. Then we even have cases of legitimate, viable projects that are abandoned for political reasons. And where that happens, you now concentrate on irrelevant ones, and even that one, because there is no relevance to it, you find in midstream that the project has to be abandoned, because in the first instance, it was not supposed to be done. So then you have a cluster of those unnecessary projects that are abandoned, unnecessary ones that are also abandoned. I recall that today, as at today, in the water sector, you have accurate records. And maybe in the course of that, I'll explain why that is so. We have accurate records of projects that are in the water sector. And it was a technical audit that revealed this. A technical audit made up of highly placed professionals who went to the field to assess, and then they classified them as those that are not necessary, those that are quick wins, the short-term, long-term, and then that way you are able to implement your project and see where you are. You can, there should be a reason for you to measure your progress. Today, you can measure progress in water resources. If we can do that for all sectors, then we will now be able to go. I'm sure if in the course of your project, if you ask water resources to give you, I do have the record, because when they published it, they made it open, and I participated in the discussion on it. So I have a copy of and everybody who cares has a copy as of today. Other sectors, they don't have such for now.
So, Honorable, yes, you wanted to respond to what is said.
That area of the National Assembly in terms of technical partners, there's a committee that is set up. We have the right to engage technical partners, consultants that are versed with the idea. Section 62 of the Constitution gives the National Assembly that right of committee investigating. And we know that most time maybe we may not have the needed technicality, so we engage. And again, the issue of being biased before we commenced it, I'm a PDP member, and that is the platform I'm in the National Assembly. And if you see the motion till date, which means the past 4 years of Muhammad Buhari, is part of the projects that will be investigated. So for me and for us in the National Assembly, we don't think that he has any political bias and that our minds will already be made before we commence that. So it is important that I emphasize that.
All right. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Juman.
Yes. In 2016, if I can remember, Dr. Abbas Tajuddin in the House of Representatives sponsored a bill for the amendment of the Public Procurement Act. Mostly they blamed contractors for the abandonment of most projects. Should the blame just be solely on the contractors?
No, I don't think so.
Has anybody been brought to book over it?
No, I don't think that the blame should be mostly on contractors, because most of the projects that have been abandoned, there are genuine contractual issues. Like he said, some of it, the basis, they were poorly started, and poor funding. You are aware that in this country, most time budget are funded 60%, 50%, and thereabout. So, and when people who initiated this project would have leave government, it is difficult to replace such projects in the budget. I know of 1 or 2 cases where the contractor has met all the milestones, waiting for payment, but there is no budgetary provision. So I don't blame contractors. And I know that the Public Procurement Act was amended, but I don't know whether 1 or 2 persons were prosecuted on that.
All right, thank you very much. Let's bring in now the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Project Managers, Nyerere IM. Yes, that's Julius Nyerere.
Yeah, but this is Nigerian Nyerere.
Yeah. Fine. I mean, it's, as we said, I mean, this is a major blight you find in our landscape. Projects that are started usually with a great deal of fanfare, and then after a while, you find that the place is overgrown with weeds. From the project management perspective, what is wrong?
Thank you very much. And then to Nigerians, this should be a topic that we need to have sleepless night over. And then we want to use this opportunity to thank the President and then the members of the National Assembly. For 14 years, we struggled to have an institution that could be held responsible or accountable or supervise or superintend what happens in most of these projects we are talking about today. Thank God on the 28th of December 2017, then the National Assembly passed the bill for the establishment of a Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, which the President Muhammad Buhari graciously assented to on the 24th of January 2018. And then over these 14 years, we were not sleeping. We have put some institutional framework and some templates to see what we will do as an institute to regulate the project administration in Nigeria. And one thing I want to point out at this point, the institute is there so that every project to be undertaken in this nation must have somebody that will report on that project. You can't have a project without involving on the people the project is meant to satisfy or provide services to. And that is why most of the times, once projects are abandoned, nobody talks. Government should be a continuum. The issue of, or the idea of one government starting a project, not completed, abandons it, and then the next government comes, start another project. Those are the things we want to regulate. And then in doing so, we want to get the people involved so that if there's a project in my community, a particular government has started, and then they left it unfinished before a new government, we will tell the new government, don't do anything until you complete this project. Once the people speak, then it will help. And then we, on our own body, the body of Chartered Institute of Project Managers, who is a project manager? It's not a single person. Like we are here now, we have members of the Korean, the Nigerian Society of Engineers, and other professionals. They are the people that make up a team of project management. It's not one single individual. So what do? We are now to train people to know what project management is all about. And then with the act that has given us
are you suggesting
a legal standing?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Ayem, are you suggesting that we never had project management factored into projects and that's why they were abandoned? My
Yes.
question is, why are we, saddled with so many abandoned projects countrywide?
Because there's nobody to hold responsible.
But you have
there's
consultants, you have contractors.
The consultants, the contractors, where is their background? Most contractors in Nigeria, let me use in quote, are like what we have in the power sector project that the House of Representatives were investigating sometime. There are projects you say it has been awarded, you go to the site, you can't even see the name of the contractor, but money has been paid. But if you have a project manager that you can identify responsible for this project, like what we plan to do is in the 774 local governments of Nigeria, we'll have project management unit. So that you have a body you can hold responsible to say, what happened to this project?
How do you intend that to materialize? Because from a layman's perspective, when you see a construction site, for instance, and the signboard that is there, you'll find the name of consulting architect, consulting the contractor, consultant engineer, electrical engineer, project managers, and so on and so forth. So, Engineer Kashim, I'm wondering how this project management, how does that align with some of those things that one sees at the construction site? If you are not a party to a contract, how then do you become privy to the contract as a project manager? Is it a busybody action?
No, I have my fears. We have a problem in Nigeria that is a bit it's not really. Whenever we have one problem, we look for a solution to fit that particular problem, and in the process create others. That is the exact reason why I say National Assembly should not go into this investigation. Your core competencies are not there. There are institutions you can outsource to. Outsource this thing to call Nigerian Society of Engineers. This is a call to service. Go and help us do an assessment of all projects, even from 1900 till now. Give them the wherewithal. They will go and do it for you and bring a result. It may come 2 years, 1 year, but you get an accurate result. But if you get a consultant to do that, for how long will he do it? How can one person go around the whole thing? The same thing. Without any attempt to whittle down whatever they are doing at project, instead of project management. Kachi here is a project manager, certified. Well, I'm a project manager. Well, you have training and qualifications that makes you a project manager. So they have been project managers. What they have done now is to create an association of project managers. Because if we say they have not been project managers, that's why projects have failed. It means all that we do in Nigeria since the independence is a trial and error. And I don't think it's trial and error. We know where our challenges come from. We have done detailed studies, like what we call the report the NSC published every 2 years, infrastructure report. It contains some of those things, why those things fail. And clearly, most of them are purely out of technical reasons, most of them. I'll give you an example. Look at Abuja, Lokoja, for instance. Okay, the people in the house, my brother says in the house, because he's from the southeast, he struggled with how to do southeast routes. South routes.
South.
He maybe wants a route from Port Harcourt to his Akwa Ibom. The person from southeast is talking about Okigwe, Port Harcourt. But you have forgotten that before you leave Abuja, which is the capital, which you must come to, you must have a link route to take you to even your area before you move.
Lokoja.
So you have abandoned that route, and people, after traveling on a good road from your zone, you come and, God forbid, people die every day. Even as I'm talking, people are dying on Lokoja, Abuja road because they have not put priority. There was a time there was no budgetary allocation at all. That's a political decision, not technical. There are many things like that that we do in this country. I don't think, look, each time we have one, we look for one solution. There are already existing institutions, existing knowledge for some of these are problems. Just like there are laws in Nigeria, people don't even think that if somebody slaps somebody on the road, it's a big man. They should make a law that anyone who slaps somebody on the road should be arrested. Not knowing that there's already a law that if you assault somebody, you can be. So these are the issues. For me, this is what I see. I think proliferation, it does happen for development. But again, we must not rubbish whatever has been done previously because we have a new institution. That is my point. Okay. Because to say that there has not been project management, I think it's not be fair, honestly.
Okay, talking about that, I would now like to come to Engineer Dr. Chukwumakachi. Let's talk about safety of these projects. You know, the houses, the structures. So how can you, is there any method where they bring in engineers to look at these structures that has been there for more than 40 years? And now, as the present administration is trying to bring up all these abandoned projects and work on them, is there any method of looking at the safety measures of these buildings that has been there for a very long time before rehabilitation work begins on it?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, we have what we call integrity tests on all these buildings to confirm whether they are safe or not. But as past president of Koren, Ali has hammered on, many of these things are not done because people don't make use of professionals. That is actually our main problem. As he's talking about House of Rep, outsourcing to professionals. These things are very important. But I will actually want, since we are talking of abandoned projects, I would actually like to talk on it because when I was doing my MBA in University of Ilorin, and the lecturer talked about factors that cause abandonment of projects. He mentioned about 10 or 11 factors, I can't remember exactly. And somebody said that all the factors are in Nigeria. The whole class started laughing. So there are so many factors causing abandonment of projects in Nigeria. But we can just narrow it to funding, as Honorable has mentioned, and outsourcing, which is a kind of public-private partnership, as my past president has mentioned. Generally, we talk about 8 elements necessary to bring a project to fruition. The 8 M's: management, men, machine, method, money, materials, means, moment, that is time. Let me concentrate on method. 2 methods of procurement in the world: conventional procurement, which is what we are discussing now, awarding contract and so on. But there's a second one, public-private partnership, which started in the late 80s. Or early 90s, which the world has been making use of to provide infrastructure, which we are not making use of. And this is why you have bad roads everywhere. The money is highly limited. In fact, yesterday when the former Minister of Works, Power and Housing, Fashola, was being interviewed screened at the National Assembly, 40 senators put down their names to ask questions, which shows the importance of infrastructure. And he's talked about 10 trillion bond for us to get our infrastructure moving. This is where PPP comes, the private-public partnership, public-private partnership. It can never be avoided. Without it, there must be abandoned projects. Because there are 4 reasons why countries embark on PPP. The first is the one that concerns us most, financial reasons. Then even countries that don't have financial reasons, like America and so on, embark on it based on 2 other reasons: project efficiency and government efficiency. Then some for ideological reasons. So unless we embark on public-private partnership, our infrastructure will continue to be bad. There's no magic about it because the money is not there. Let me say that so far.
Well, still with you, Dr. Chukwumakachi. You've talked about the financing model for projects.
Yes.
It would be useful for you to touch on other considerations that are relevant to the abandonment of projects that we have in Nigeria.
Okay, I talked of the 8 M's. The first is management. Now, ministries are not actually structured for project implementation. When you talk of organizational structure, you have 3 types. Functional, which is the way ministries are structured, and is the least in achieving success in projects. Then you have projectiles, maybe FCDA, Ministry of Works and Water Resources, those are the only ones that are projectile. Then you talk of matrix in between. Now, once a ministry is functional, structured in a functional way, it will create problem for project implementation because project environment is a fluid environment. When a contractor writes a simple letter, it transverses the entire gamut of the ministry from one table to the other and so on. It doesn't work out that way. If the ministries want to implement projects, they should have implementing agencies. The way Ministry of Water Resources has its water board, and let's say Ministry of Agric will have extensions and things like that. But as far as it is that office where you have the minister, the permanent secretaries and so on, projects will always continue to be bogged down because payment will take 3 months, 4 months. Simple payment will take 3-4 months because it has to transfer the entire gamut of the ministry.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll return to you subsequently. Let's go over now to our Lagos Network Center, where we allow introduce Engineer Fidet Ohiria, who is Managing Director of Nigerian Railways Corporation. Engineer Fidet Ohiria, tell us, what is the status of abandoned projects in Nigerian Railways? What did you inherit, and why were those projects abandoned? You've been in railways for decades, by the way.
It's good to talk about abandoned projects, and my colleagues in Abuja have made a meaningful contribution to this subject. My former president and my brother, Kashim Ali, has talked not academically but practical, which means he has been on the field, and I will go on that line. What is abandoned project, for instance? Why do we abandon projects? How come we have abandoned projects? If you do proper need assessment before a project is taken off, and in the Procurement Act, you have a law that says don't give out a project until the budget is passed and fund made available. And recently in Railway and the Ministry of Transportation, we abide by that guiding principle. But before now, we had a lot of abandoned projects, like trying to rehabilitate the old narrow gauge. And contracts were given and under the auspices of Shopee. And thank God, as at today, as at last year, some budgets were being made available to pay outstanding IPCs. And this year, same thing. And we have summoned those contractors for a meeting and asked them to review their program so that we can go back to site, so that we can meet the people's aspiration of having a safe track to run the train. So it is not it is not a thing to achieve results of getting this project finished. It's just commitment and dedication and making your self-interest. You reduce it and make the general public interest of the overriding principle. Why do I say that? Is that if you know that you are going to have 10% of the budget of the money for this year, let's concentrate and make it so that you can use that, like the track, you can continue to operate on the track, not necessarily because you want to blackmail, you go and dig the track off so that at the end you are not able to operate, trying to seek more money. So our guiding principle in railway is that the little fund we have, we must put into use to make sure that we can still operate the track, run the trains, so that they don't become abandoned. I think that is a good thing to do by all project team. You talk about project managers. I don't see in Nigeria any project, no matter how small, they don't have a project management team involved in it. Depending on the level of the contract, you may have an in-house project team, or you have a consultant as your project team. So I don't want to be so drastic to say a project manager cannot drive the output of a project. If the fund is not there and the fund, if it's there, is not properly managed, the project becomes abandoned. I think from experience, what is important is that the work program should be properly planned so that the work done should be meaningful. If not even completed, people will see it that it's at a stage that it could be a madman that will abandon the project because we have made the system done the system in a way that it cannot be abandoned. So I will say that as far as this government is concerned, the Abuja project in railway has been taken off and we have brought it up and they are looking to it and we are taking steps to ensure that they are all completed. The Lagos Ibadan was awarded in 2006 and nothing happened till 2016. And we are talking about deploying train service in October. Itakbe Warri was, I don't know what to call that, for 34 years. We are working on it. And everybody who knows that on that place, we have started working. That is just because the government had to put some money there and the project team had to go back, make sure that the contractor go back to site. And where they find things difficult, we have to put our heads down and make sure the solutions are found, whether the project consultant, the end users, and the contractor, because the driving force was to deliver for Nigerians. So as far as we have that in our mind, at the back of our mind, that the public interest is the overriding factor, I don't see any reason why project should be abandoned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ayem Chinyere. He made a point in Nyerere, he made a point there that project managers usually are not seen. Can you respond to that?
Yes, I want to ask us one question here. Nigerians should equally listen to this. Who do we hold accountable for all these failed or abandoned projects in various states in Nigeria? Let me use the word in general. I appreciate what the past president of Korean actually said, and then my brother, Dr. Kachi. I agree with you. But what we are talking in Nigeria, there has not been an organization or a body that could be said this is a chartered institute of project managers. In advanced countries of this world, in Britain, US, name them, we have chartered project managers. That is why most of them are members of those professional bodies outside the country. But now, to the glory of God, we have a body in Nigeria that is called Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, comprising of engineers, architects, and other professionals, accountants. So what we are saying that this body is now a body you can now hold responsible. What are we saying? The template we have is that before a project is awarded, there must be a body that will certify, that will agree with the engineers, with the architects. Okay, this project is good. You have awarded it. This is the cost. But there will be a follow-up mechanism, and that is what the institute is there to provide, so that the engineer has done his work, the architect has done his work. Then the executors of that project, there should be somebody who will report, yes, we are aware that this project has been awarded. This is the cost. This is what is expected for the benefit of the people. Then once it is abandoned, then you look at that project management unit of that organization, say, what happened to this project? That is what we are saying.
Dr. Okachi, I want you to respond to this. In terms of this new conception of having a chartered institute as, shall we say, another layer of supervision of a particular project, what value is it likely to bring? And project management, I think it's a graduate degree program, usually in most universities, but what value is likely to come, and is that going to be of any help, in getting out of the trap of abandoned projects in Nigeria?
Well, it will contribute because, as I said, there are many factors responsible for abandonment. Project management alone will not solve it, but it will contribute. Actually, in advanced countries, they have moved into project management as a profession. In the past, the architect used to be in charge of building projects, the engineering projects. But in modern times, it's the project manager that is in charge. The engineers, the architects will have their supervisory roles because the project manager actually has to have technical knowledge, general management knowledge, and project management knowledge. So the engineer can be a project manager as I am. I'm a PMP. My past is also a certified project manager. So there's nothing really wrong in having an association of project managers. But I don't really know how this one came about. That is I can't talk about this particular one, but the modern trend is that there should be a project manager who may be an architect, an engineer, a lawyer, depending on the project. Whoever is the project manager must be a subject matter expert in that. You cannot be an electrical engineer and go and be a project manager of an agri project. You must be a subject matter expert there. So generally, there's nothing wrong in having a project manager. But it shouldn't be a situation where a non-engineer will be a project manager and now be the project manager of an engineering project or project manager of a bridge or tunnels or something like that. It shouldn't be so.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may say something. When I was talking about the project manager, a project manager, like he rightly said, we are talking about project managers trained for particular projects. You can, like he said, you can bring an accountant to supervise a bridge construction. What we are doing in Institute of Chartered and the Chartered Institute of Project Manager is to have a synergy, a symbiotic relationship with all the professionals, so that if we come to a state, they want to build maybe a flyover for a bridge, a flyover in the state, you have the engineers, you have the designers, the architects. Then you have accountants who will do the costing.
Okay.
You have the procurement managers there. They form the team.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's pause. Let's return to one other very critical issue that the guests have all touched on, which has to do with funding. Honorable Francis Uduyo, are you a freshman, a member of the House? Or
No, I'm a second timer.
You're a second timer. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, part of what has also emerged is that there is the general view that the appropriation bill is perhaps the most important piece of legislation that an assembly works on, whether at the state level or at the national level. And it would appear to be the case that there is this atomistic funding of projects, usually in the appropriation bill, which becomes our annual budget. Atomistic in the sense that when a project is lying there and the project requires more injection of funds from Akwa Ibom, you will say, no, this project must come to my side. We'll give you 1 little naira here. Engineer Kashim, we don't give him anything. Ayim, give him something. Kachi, give him something. Me, don't give me anything. Why have we had this disposition from the lawmakers with regard to not taking a holistic view of the catalyzing effect of funding particular projects which had been lying low or lying virtually abandoned for so many years, and indeed, after a while, really get abandoned?
But I don't think you are completely correct. What happens is that the bill originates from the executive. So at that point, no lawmaker has an input until it comes to the National Assembly. That is when we sit over. And we also react based on reports and petitions from people. That's where you hear they say that money has been moved from this project to this. And entirely you can't do that. Now we have the leadership of the House under this 9th Assembly. There is what we call the joint tax, which is the basic philosophy of the 9th Assembly that is being propagated by the Speaker, that there will be collaboration between the legislatures and the executive. And I can assure you, once there is collaboration between these two arms of government, the issue of taking money from here and doing and all that will not be possible, because from the conception point, there will be consultation, there will be engagement. Once there is engagement, we have a smooth budget process. So I think that Nigerians should wait and see what the Speaker has in mind and how we're going to practicalize that, believing that the executive will also cooperate with us. Because most times they do this budget, you don't see it until it comes to the House. What do you expect? We are representative of a people. And of course, if I represent you, and at the end of 4 years, I don't have one project to show in a community that need water so badly, no water, what will be your marks for me? How will you score my performance? So it does drive a member to say, look, I need to take something home. But the manner is what is the problem. So if the executive do an engagement from the conception of a project, I think that we'll have a smooth budget process, and that will yield a very successful budget implementation and allocation of funds to different projects.
If I might comment, they say governance is continuous. Yeah. In other climes, irrelevant of party alleviation, when a person comes, even if it's PDP or APC, as long as a project has been assigned and money given to that project, it's a continuous process. How can we explain in Nigeria, where a multi-billion-dollar investment from international donors is given to Nigeria, and there's this media, all over the place when it's opening, the euphoria of the people, the excitement of the people. How can you explain when somebody just comes in and said, I'm starting a new project, I'm leaving that, and the contractor has gotten his money? The people are hoping that this might change their life. So how does politics affect these projects?
Well, that's why if you look at the body of the motion about this abandoned project, the emphasis is ascertaining the cost when it was awarded, what is the milestone, how much is paid, with a view to ensuring when we are satisfied that this particular project or that project is replayed in the budget with a view to completion to satisfy Nigerians. Yes, there will be politics, of course. Everybody will try to show his political strength, show that he is strong, show that he is representing well in trying to bring project to his place. So you cannot underscore that fact. But we believe that in the 9th Assembly, there will be a lot of remarkable change.
Engineer Kashim, you've been in the public sector. Address the issue of inadequate or even atomistic funding of projects that eventually leads to abandonment.
Thank you very much. Honorable, please, this is our country. We don't have any other country. The truth is, the things we say sometimes or write are not exactly the things we do. I had a public service experience. I worked in the public service for a long time. I retired as a director. So I do know some of these things. Now, there's a suggestion that Minister Fashola gave yesterday that I want to revise, not the way he suggested. He said, if, for instance, there's a project that is of critical nature to people in South-South, the senators from that area should sit down together and say, this is what we want. And we put funds in that and finish. This will for all zones. But I say, instead of the National Assembly initiating it, I would rather that the executive initiates it, because the reason for completion of these projects are technical. For instance, let me look at roads. I talked about Lokoja, Abuja. There's this road, this bridge, Oweto Bridge. There's another one that is linking Loko to Bagana. These are two bridges on River Benue, that if you do them, a smart driver can leave Enugu and come to Abuja to work and go back, because it reduces drastically the travel time. Why can't the National Assembly, for instance, say, look, let's forget about all this or that. Let's focus on that. Do it. Make life easy for the ordinary people who have to drive from Enugu to Abuja. Even for commuters who come for business, they can now drive safely to Abuja and go back, instead of going through Lokoja and going winding and then getting killed in the way. There must be a paradigm shift. The present arrangement is that when you have 10 million, for instance, I'll say I'm a leader. They will give me 2. This person is not a leader. He gets
the money meant for the project.
No, it's true.
No, that's not true.
I'm not. This thing is not a castigation. You share, not sharing to put in your pocket. You allocate it to project. This is what
that's not true. You agree with me that these projects are not conceived by the legislators.
No, but when they come to the National Assembly, the characters change.
And then the National Assembly also makes the point that They are not a rubber stamp of the of the bill sent by the president.
In fact, you exert your power. That is your job to produce the appropriation bill. That what they bring from there is just a recommendation.
It's a draft.
And you are free to change it, to do anything. And you do it sometimes. Now, you see, if you let's look at history. Even this idea of investigation. Thank God, Tony Lumelu, my brother, is the minority leader now. See what he went through. See what he went through doing this investigation on power. That was even a project that had not even been completed, and the records were easily available. He went all kinds of things. He was fighting them. They were fighting him. One time they won't detain him. I had to go and visit him, because I liked what he was saying. Even though every information he had may not be accurate, but there was a need to start that discussion. Because you can't imagine you put so much money into an investment and you don't see anything out of it. Because the truth about it, I used to take, when I used to be chief executive of I do invest. We had an investment of about 100 billion. And before I got there, they had no money to pay salaries. I called the manager and said, look, if any of you had this investment, will you say you will be a poor man? See, even the lady that are running small business, is he not a rich man by all description? Now, first month, because they said they're going on strike, that are going to strike, the changing management that are coming to sack, that if they don't work, I will sack them, so they will go on strike. I said, don't go on strike. I'll borrow money, I'll pay you. Next month, if you don't generate enough money, if we can pay only 10, we'll sack the remaining and we'll keep 10. The following month, we had more than we needed, and it continued like that. Institutions can be made to work. But there has to be that focus given to them and direction given to them by those who manage the affairs of this country. Believe you me, if you just close your eyes for a moment and say, look, I'm just a Nigerian, let's identify key projects and we put money in them. There will be no abandoned projects in Nigeria. But the executive has to do something. They have to also assess. There has to be a technical assessment, not political assessment. I'm sorry, sir, but I would rather you outsource it to a technical team to do it and bring you the result. When they bring the result, there's someone you consider that in the house, but don't do it because you have burnt your hand before using Louis and a clear example.
No, Engineer Kasim, it's our constitutional right.
Just a minute, Honorable Uduyok. We're going back again to the original issue, whether the House should proceed with this investigation or audit otherwise. What we are talking about now is the funding model or the financing model of projects that leads to abandonment. Dr. Kachi, you've handled a number of projects in the past. We've also been in procurement. How does, for the police, by the way, how does the way we fund projects, minus the PPP, we're talking about now from the public purse, how does that affect the completion or abandonment altogether of a project?
Well, when I was in the police as the head of the procurement, I don't think we ever had more than 50% funding of these capital projects. That is just the truth. That is why I'm emphasizing on public-private partnership. As Engineer Kashim Ali said, that there has to be a paradigm shift. That paradigm shift has to be in the style or strategy of procurement. Because when you want to improve the fortunes of an organization, you talk of the ABC, that is assumptions, beliefs, and consequences, that is the culture. You talk of the 3S, structure, style, and strategy. You talk of the 3F, forces, focus, and fit. Now, culture is the most difficult to change. Asking politicians to change the way they think they should do this, they should do that, as we are saying here, is the most difficult to change. The easiest to change is either the structure or the style or strategy. And that's why I'm talking of strategy of changing from conventional procurement of awarding contracts to public-private partnership. Public-private partnership is not a replacing technique. It's not going to stop budgetary. Even in advanced countries like America, France, the maximum they have gone is 37% or 40%. But what we're saying that those projects that can go by public-private partnership, like Lagos about the express road, there's no reason for government to put 1 naira there. Enugu-Onitsha road, Enugu-Port Harcourt road, Second Niger Bridge, these are projects that can sustain, that are over feasible. Yeah. Government should give them out to the private person. Even from concession fees they will be paying. The government will use that to work in other places. Without public-private partnership, this problem will remain because there's no money. And even before the security challenges, we had no money. Is it now that we are spending money on security challenges that we expect to have more money? We are not even talking of environmental challenges like erosion in Inaka, my area, and so on, Uvim and so on. If you go to those areas, they will soon collapse. So there is enough for government to do with money. That these ones that are commercially viable, they should hand them over to the private. That's what I'm saying.
But when government started most of these projects, there was money. Because the exchange rate at that time then was maybe 15 naira, 25 naira to the dollar. There was money. So I don't understand where all this talk is coming that there's no funding. When this project started, the money was there and contractors were paid. So how can we marry these things? And now to go on this abandoned project, a lot of money running into trillions of naira has to be spent on these things. So maybe 35 years ago, the money given would have completed the project. How can we hold people accountable on that? How can we marry it together when we are saying there's no money now, there's no money now? When the project started, there was money. So how do you marry it?
Yes, holding people accountable, you have to do audit first, which is what the House of Rep is trying to do.
Yes.
Which Kashim Ali is telling them the best method to go about it, to outsource. Outsourcing is a kind of a public-private partnership. But if there was money in the past or so, while holding people accountable, we are talking of how to move forward now. How do we get these roads repaired? How do we get some of these abandoned projects completed? And as I said, that we can get money from handing over the feasible ones to the private sector. Then government should now concentrate on those that are not feasible because it's not every project that can go under PPP. It has to be commercially viable because the private man has to make his profits. The government based why some of them are not feasible is that government takes its decision based on political, socio-economic basis, not on commercial basis. The first reason why government takes a decision over a project is normally political because government is actually there to win the next election. And that they do by increasing their reputation. So the project they are doing is actually to increase their reputation. They must win the next election. That is the first mentality.
All right, Dr. Kachi and gentlemen, we're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back here and still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, let's return to Engineer Fide Tokiria at our Lagos network studios. Engineer Fide, a number of issues that have come up, you may wish to respond to, particularly financing model. The fact that you get piecemeal funding from the public purse for your projects. In the Nigerian Railways, how has this impacted on the completion of projects?
As I said earlier, in present-day railway, what we do, like the Lagos-Ibadan, was to ensure that the budget provision was made and funds allocated. Unlike where you pay piecemeal, we were expected to pay our counterpart funding 15%, and it was done. So there was no fear for the contractor whether, when the time is due, whether the fund will be there. We make that payment, and it was our duty to drive it to ensure that we get the results for Nigerians. And see, there was no personal interest involved, right from the minister to those of us working under him. He ensured that instead of saying, okay, let's do this small thing out of the money to make sure this one happen, once a fund is allocated to a project, ensure that that fund is used for that project. That was the magic of doing the Ibadan Lagos and making it, getting the result faster than what expected. So I think recently, I don't see any project that has not been allocated fund and you start it, because the cost is a colossal waste to do to go along that line. So since I took over assembly, we ensure that we don't do project just because we want to satisfy a community or a certain person, because the rail industry must start at one end and end at one end. So you don't lay a track, for instance, like a Kaduna Abuja, you do within 10 kilometers of Kaduna and jump and do 10 kilometers in Kaduna. If Kaduna Abuja you are taking, must start from one end. At best, you do them segmented, ensuring that they will eventually link up. Same thing we did in Lagos, Ibadan. For funding, if we talk about PPP, in Nigeria today, you advertise for a program, over 2,000, 3,000 companies will say, okay, they can fund it. At the end, you just discover that the resources and time you use in driving that PPP, a transaction advisor will be paid. At the end, you will not get the results. We've tried it, and we didn't get the expected result. It's better, I will advise that the government, as I always say, if it is 10 kilometers you can do at a go, you do it. Imagine we are over 20 years old in this present democracy. If we are doing 100 kilometers of track, we would have done close to 2,000 kilometers of track from our budgetary provision. So, but when you throw it open and every Dick and Harry, even somebody who has no office will apply, and his document will be so beautiful. We even have foreign partners of no fixed address. So we have to look inward and look at what we do very sincerely. And it's good National Assembly is talking about looking at the Abadan project. I think, first, I think they should look at what is responsible for abandoning the projects. From there on, we can now start correcting them. If the projects are still relevant and they still meet our need, because there are some projects that are maybe 20 years ago, it was very relevant for our needs. But now, if you look back, it's better to forget it. But if it is very important and still need, we should look for funding and complete them. As the present government is insisting that all abandoned projects that are meaningful should be completed, and they are making necessary arrangements to ensure that, especially as regards railway. So the funding is difficult, especially in rail infrastructure that's so capital intensive. And I also don't believe people saying borrowing is a wrong thing, because if you look at Britain, if they have no underground and those things today, the transportation problem would have been serious, even in the US. But if you have the discipline to borrow and use it, it's not borrowing that is the problem, it's using the money borrowed appropriately and for that particular project that is meant to solve. And that is what the target loan should be used for, and ensure that it's judiciously and expeditiously used. So if we do that, because 20, 30 years' time, our children will not be doing it again. It's already done. I just said, for instance, there are some rules when you pass. If 5 years ago this road was done, the present government would not be doing this, and it would have done another one. And if the portion of Ibadan Lagos that has been done now, you are not doing it next year, so another portion will be done this year and next year. So gradually, we see that the infrastructure we are crying about, we get it right. And the political interest is another thing, but it should be, when you understand how the system works, it should be that you do it to the entire benefit. Because if you do a road in my place and other people will use it, and it will make more meaningful than doing it in another place, and that at the end you still need to come and pass through a very bad spot. Why you start from one end and take it to the end, as we are doing in the rail industry. We did Kaduna to Abuja, we are doing Lagos to Ibadan, and I think if we continue to grow, if we continue to do that, before you know it, we have the rail track all covering the whole state and the production center in Nigeria. So the funding is difficult. We have PPP in Nigeria because most of our businessmen want to get their profit yesterday, not even tomorrow. So I don't know how we marry those situations. So we should also have serious-minded business people who want to invest in private infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fide, talking about private infrastructure, people coming in to help, with funding to ensure that all these projects are now on ground. Talking about the railway, people are excited. Yes, something is happening in the railway sector from Lagos to Ibadan, from from Abuja to the Kaduna dry port. What is happening to Port Harcourt, Maiduguri, Lagos, Maiduguri, Kano, what is happening to all this? I know funding is difficult, but what are we going to see maybe in the next year or so along that axis?
See, that's what I was saying. We have advertised for engage the private people to come in and also extend rail infrastructure, those areas that you have just mentioned. Luckily enough, we are able to come into a private arrangement. Hopefully, we hope they will start construction. We are trying to link it up to Kaduna, to Abuja, then Abuja, Kaduna, and from Port Harcourt, from Warri to the deep sea with the deep sea port. So that one has been done. A contract arrangement is in place, and we are hoping that they will do that, and that one will give us more courage to drive on. We are also undergoing the very diligent checking on some people that have been found suitable and qualified to do from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. We have Kano, Dibia. All these are PPP sort of arrangement. So I pray that we hope that this thing will come to fruition. We are not giving up. We are still driving it and encouraging them to ensure the PPP arrangement and then concessioning.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Fide Tuhiria from our Lagos Network Center. Now let's return to the guests here in the studios. Some experts will say that what we are looking at today has to do with the failure of monitoring, evaluation, and control. But others will also argue that corruption has also been a big player in the abandonment of projects, and that fraudulent certificates for milestones and completion are usually issued, which is why politically a program or a project is awarded and everybody's on paper. Completed. Or internal auditors will sign completed, external auditors will sign completed. And you go there and there is nothing. How do we deal with this problem, Engineer Kashin?
Well, see, the truth is, if you make information available to people, a lot of things will not be done. For instance, if you are doing a project for a community, let the whole world know that you are doing that project. So the people begin to themselves monitor it. But what happens in some cases is projects are just dumped on. Even in universities, I had gone to visit a university, I saw a job being poorly done. And I said, why can you allow this out in a university? They said the contractor came, and he said, if you disturb me, I'll move this project to another university. It felt he was doing them a favor, that he was doing from TED Fund, and I'm saying this authoritatively. Let TED Fund, and I have called to write to that. Check these excesses of people. Let the university be involved in the appointment of the contractor. Then he owes them some responsibilities. So if we do that, make the information open, so that even if the people are afraid of you, at least they know that you are the thief that took their money. But if they don't know, then you can say, I did a project in this village, whether there's no project there. But if the information is out in the open that you were given this project to do in this place, this is the amount of money paid to you, the people know, then you also, on your own, you'll be afraid that tomorrow somebody could rise from that committee to attack me. So let me do it. But a lot of opaqueness in our processes, which is what Public Procurement Act was supposed to do. Okay. Unfortunately, the structure of the Public Procurement Act also is another problem. We have a kind of sole administrator structure there now, instead of having a council. And that, again, when you have absolute power, it corrupts. Because if you have you alone being vested with the power that you have been shared among a group of people, and you are exercising it, it grows in your head that you think you are a superhuman being. So there are a few of those things we must do. Create a lot of openness. In other countries where they even have more resources, even simple things as, I remember, because of their particular activities, in Singapore, I was told, if you buy a car, before you buy a car, you have to tell the authority you want to buy a car. You get permission. When you buy a car, you have to queue to get a plate. So you can buy a car and still wait for about a month or more before you can put your car on the road. So there's no question of you say, I bought a car and I hid it and I'm not paying taxes on my car. Such things as if you want to also get a piece of land, it is they sit down in the town hall and discuss that you have applied. Somebody can say, no, you already have one. I don't have. Why should you have a second allocation? If we have some openness in our system, let this contract, it's public fund. Even at the state, it's worse. Federal, we're talking now. The state is worse. The state, they'll do a borehole that is maybe about 1 million, and they'll commission with 2 million. The paparazzi. And the borehole will not work. We have power systems that are completed, that they were doing commissioning. They put a generator behind to power the system. It happened in this country. And these are all clearly, but because nobody has put this information in the open space, nobody cares. But if we now say we want to deal with issues of abandoned projects in Nigeria, let's do it thoroughly. Use technical people. Say a group of people, you are in charge of River State, you are in charge of Kogi. You have consultants from all those states, and you have another managing consultant, maybe at the zonal level, to coordinate. They have a central managing consultant at the federal, so that they have data, and you have accurate data which you can put in the public space. People have access to that information, and that is the power they have. If you do that, believe me, in the next 10 years, our country will transform.
How do we deal with the issue of monitoring and evaluation to cure the fraudulent assignment of certificates or release of certificates of completion or milestones to contractors who have done nothing?
That is why I say that the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Project Management is germane and very timely. And that is what we are there to do. There's a concept of value for money audit in tandem with what the engineer said. The project managers are there. It's not just like the project managers we have been having. Those ones are doing. But this is a body that will be there to tell the public, this project has been awarded. These are people responsible. These are the stages they have gone. So if there's an abandonment, you know where to knock first. You go to the project management unit, say, what happened with this project? Then we are there to give you the information. That is why we are embarking on training nationwide to get people who will have the capacity and then the sincerity to occupy such project management units in various local governments.
Thank you. Dr. Kachi, it's often referred to as win-win. The contractor wins, the supervisor also wins, and so on and so forth. How can we deal with this challenge of either the ministry or the agency and the particular officers just signing things off on their desk when, as Nigerians would say, on ground, nothing is happening?
Yes, I align with my past president, Engineer Kashim Ali, that we should institutionalize community monitoring. Years back, something funny happened when I was still serving. Some villagers in one south state arrested some people painting electric posts and took them to the police station. The police was in a dilemma because position of the law is nulla in crimen, nulla poena sine lege, no crime, no punishment, except in accordance with the law. There's no law that says you cannot paint electric posts, so they gave the man bail. Later on, it turned out that the man was awarded contract to supply electricity that has already been supplied. So that was why he was painting the post, enabling take photographs. And that is because you have many organizations there, NNDC, federal government, state government, all are what no coordination. Now, if this community monitoring is institutionalized, such things will not occur. And again, where there is no punishment, as they say, if it pays, it stays.
Yes.
Where there's no punishment, people will repeat it. All these people who have been signing documents, internal auditor, external auditor, and so on, and nothing was done. What has happened to them? All you need to do, punish one person, and the whole thing will end.
Okay, Honorable Francis, you moved the motion for the audit of abandoned projects. And I hope, after the nitty-gritty of the motion passing through so many passages, you would look at commissioning these projects when they are done. With so much money, maybe half of the money used for the project is used to commission these projects. Will you look into that too?
We'll also look into everything. But let me say something about what Engineer Kasim has said. Openness of the project. I think Nigerians should also step up their concern for projects. For example, the budget is supposed to be an open document. How many Nigerians go through the document to know what comes to their community?
Do they have access to it?
The budget is open. It's a public document. So Nigerians should step up, know what is in the budget, what is coming to its place. And when it doesn't come, assuming 4 or 5 months is gone, you ask questions and inquire what is happening. Again, you talk about the fraudulent signing of IPCs, and very respectable past engineer was talking about house not conducting this investigation. Between you and I, where does the fraud start? It is the technical people, the engineers, that approve the IPCs, that gets in before the auditor and whatever will ascertain. Is the auditor on site? They are consultants, the technical people. So them within their institution should be able to set up what should be punishable, how it should be done, and people to be openly disgraced. Because what we are talking about, a job is awarded, a consultant is assigned to the job, and the contractor, for example, collaborate with him. He's the first person who passed the IPC, and he goes to the office. The man in office does not know what's going on. He says, oh, because the consultant who supervises the project has ascertained that the job is done to this level, oh, pay. So I think that they should do more in the technical part in their profession to discourage this.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Francis Udoyok, member of the House of Representatives. He represents Ikorabasi Umpatenin Instan Obolo in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you very much for being part of our discussion this morning. Let's also appreciate Engineer Dr. Chukwuma Kachi, who came here to represent the current president, because he's also a past vice president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Nigeria. Engineer Kashim Ali, of course, former current president and current chair of the FCT Water Board. Thank you very much for being part of our discussion. Deep thanks also to the Vice President, Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, Iyorere Ayem. Thank you for being on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
From Lagos, we were joined by Engineer Fidet Ohiria, Managing Director, Nigerian Railways Corporation. Engineer Ohiria, thanks a lot for being around today. Okay, so that does it for our conversation segment. Again, we apologize that we're unable to take your tweets. We still have some challenges with our downloading facility. Let's go over now to our sports desk.